Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Carmen, and welcome back to another late night episode of the Novio show, adults only edition. Last week, we actually didn't have a show because we were celebrating a holiday, but the previous week before, we had sex specialist Bahar with us, and that was really exciting because we got to talk about sex toys, consent, and pleasure. So if you're looking to, spice up your sex life and enhance it with some sex toys, definitely take a listen to that episode. And don't forget, we are live every Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. But this week, I'm really excited because we're in a new month. And, it kind of goes and ties in with astrology. We recently had a full moon, and we actually have CEO and co founder Rachel Lowe with us from Struck App. So, hi, Rachel.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Yes. So, tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from, and how did Struck App become, an astrological app?
So I was born and raised in LA, like the suburbs of LA, and then ended up going to NorCal for school. So I stayed up there for like 10 years and I studied engineering and I did like the whole tech thing that everyone kind of does when you go to school up there. Um, but I think like a lot of people started to realize that there are some issues in the tech world. And I think that's become more and more clear to everyone as the past few years have gone by. So my experience wasn't unique, but I was always like the only woman in the room in discussions with a bunch of guys. And I always felt like my opinions weren't being listened to. And it was a problem that I saw at like all types of companies, big and small. I worked at all different types of companies. So eventually I kind of just realized I wanted to work on my own project, and I didn't really think I was like an entrepreneur because I don't know, that word is like so sometimes it's kind of cringy, but
Yeah.
this idea came up when I was talking to my friends one day because I got more and more into astrology, like kind of around when everyone else did in like 2015. Started getting really interested in it. And then as I was kind of having this like career quarter life crisis, trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life, it became more and more helpful as like a tool for like understanding myself and talking to my friends about things that I like might not have otherwise felt comfortable talking about.
Hmm.
So I kind of saw how powerful it was as a communication tool for people and like a way of kind of like doing some introspection, I guess. So one day I was talking to my friends and we were like comparing charts and we're like, oh, is this guy's chart like good for me or whatever?
I do the
Like,
same with my friends. Like, I'm always like, when were you born? What
yes.
time? Like, I'm trying to plan everything. And that was like you said, like early 2015 when I started, because I'm 27 now. So I'm like, oh my gosh, like I've been doing this for a while.
Yeah, yeah. And like that was such a common thing, right? Everyone is always like, oh, like let me check his chart, let me check her chart or whatever. So
Hmm.
we were having one of those days and it was like a really tedious process to keep like putting in these people's like birth times, and we'd had to keep like switching back and forth. And so finally my friend was just like, why isn't there an app that just like only pairs you to people that you have like a compatible chart with? And I was like, that's so true. And so
Right.
I it kind of like sat in the back of my mind for a while, and I was like trying to figure out what I wanted to do next. So it just kept kind of nagging at me until I was finally like, this should exist. And I'm like at a point in my life where I'm really lucky that I like have friends that are really good at the jobs that they do. So like I have really good designer friends, and I have really good friends like friends who can develop apps, and I have friends who can do all these
Hmm.
different things.
Utilizing your resources.
Yes, yes. Well,
Yes.
I feel like I'm like, so I'm like almost 30, which is really scary, but like next month I'll be 30. So like I feel like I'm at a place in my life now where like all my friends are starting to like be really established in their career, and they're like, you know, everyone's just so professional. So I was like, I'm going to take advantage of the fact that everyone has a really good skill. And so
Hmm.
it's like a group effort, and we just like made it happen, I guess.
See, I like feel you on that because I feel like with even this show, it kind of just came organically, and I feel like if you have a personal relation to your project, it's gonna succeed because you have some like emotional connection to it, or even like yourself, like the whole like finding each other's charts, like it's a real thing. So how did the name Struck like come about? Because it was so funny when I saw Struck, I'm like, okay, is it like what's the story behind Struck?
No one's ever asked me that. That's funny. I don't know. Sometimes for me, I don't know if it works like this for everyone, but sometimes with like creative things, like an idea will just like pop into my head and it like won't go away. And then I'll think about it more and more and just be like, this is like the right thing. So that happened with the name Struck for some reason, just popped in my head. And then it was like, it made sense to me because it's like, you can have like love struck, you can be like moonstruck, starstruck, and all these things that felt like kind of like serendipity.
Mm-hmm.
And I really wanted that to be kind of the feeling of the app was like serendipity and like not necessarily fate, but just like something bigger than ourselves or whatever. So I like the idea of struck, like love striking you. Not in, I don't know, it can sound like violent, but for us, we don't mean it that way.
No, I know. I absolutely love the name, and I think it's really cool. Like you mentioned, you had a background in tech, and you saw that in your industry. It's probably like still male dominated, but there are some really good females out there, women like doing their thing. And I think it's really cool too. Why I love your app. Just like Bumble, it's a woman-led app, and then your app is woman-led. I'm not sure if your co-founder is also female or it's a male.
No, so my co-founder is a man and he's the only man that's worked on the app. So right now it's only two of us. We're a really small operation, but we've had like other people come and go. So like I was saying, like I've had friends that have kind of stepped in to help with certain parts of the app and then they went back to their like real job. So everyone who's worked on the app so far has been a woman except for my co-founder. And all of us are women of color or LGBTQ plus. So it's really cool because our team is just like so different than any other sort of normal tech team out there. And I'm really proud of what we've built because like we don't need men or whatever. I don't know. It's just pretty cool to see. Yeah. So I don't know. It's like it's funny because we get feedback sometimes it's like, oh, like you only have two people like working on the app because they feel like it looks like more professional or more polished or just like looks cool. So that's like a huge compliment, but it's like a huge it's a compliment to the team, right? Like all these
Right.
women who worked on it because all of them are just super talented. So I'm really proud of what everyone came together and built.
Yes, and then for those of you tuning in, Struck app is only available through the App Store, so there isn't a Android version as of yet, right?
Yeah,
Um,
and that's because we get a lot of like people yelling at us to like make an Android version, and we really want to, but we're just like we have like so little resources right now. We're like very baby, very
oh,
early app.
trust me, I used to be Team Android. Like I was a diehard Android fan, and then I switched to iPhone, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I have access to all these apps. So I feel the pain of the Android users.
Yeah.
I know you said you have a very small team, but for those individuals that are interested in your app, kind of walk us through what happens when someone downloads it, like what can they expect, and how is it different from other dating apps like Tinder, Bumble? There's so many. I've been through all of them. So what makes Struck different?
Yeah. Well, first I'll say I've been through all of them too, which is part of why I made this app. Like I mean, so dating apps, you're a little younger than me, but like dating apps became a thing kind of towards the end of college for me. And before that, they were really like taboo. So I remember, I know it sounds like I'm a grandma, but like I remember when dating apps first came on the scene and how weird it was. And so for me, I like hit the ground running and just like downloaded every dating app. And I'm one of those like I'm a double Virgo for those that know
Ooh,
astrology. So I'm an Aquarius, Virgo. So I'm very like action oriented. And so once I was on the apps, I was like, okay, I'm going to go on dates because there's no point in being on the apps unless you're like going on dates. So I think
right.
I went on like like around 100 dates total, like over the past, like I've been on a lot of dates. So I know the apps in and out. But anyway, so when you download Struck, what you would expect is to, if you have other astrology apps, this is pretty familiar, but you enter your birth time and location, and the more accurate you can be, the better, but you can always kind of like guesstimate.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll get your birth chart, and will suggest some personality traits to you based on your birth chart, and you can choose which ones feel the most like you, because there's like a Twitter meme that's going around right now, and it's like, are you like this kind of Libra or this kind of Libra? And there's like the reading Libras and like the party
Uh,
Libras or whatever. So there, there's different
are you
types
saying
of.
that because I'm a Libra? Did you know I was a
No, I
Libra?
didn't know that, but I can see it for you. Yeah, so then you choose your traits and you select priorities. One thing that I thought was missing in other dating apps is like, if you're really trying to like have a good relationship with someone, even if it's not supposed to be serious, but you want it to be like authentic, I feel like it's
Mm-hmm.
important to know what someone's like priorities are. So for me, I had this experience of always like going on a date with someone and 2 or 3 dates in realizing, okay, this person is really into their job, for instance, and like that's not a focus area for me. Or like this
Right.
person's really into, I don't know, like the outdoors, and like that's not a priority for me. Like I'm a family person or whatever, right? So
Mm-hmm.
for me it felt like those conversations were happening like way too late, even though those are such like characteristic parts of a person's like who they are.
Right.
So we wanted that to be at the forefront. So you select that, select some photos, write a quick little bio. And then once you get into the app, what you'll see that's very different is we don't have any swiping. So we were just talking about this before we hopped on, but you only have 4 matches per day. And those matches have been fed through our algorithm, and they are paired with you based on your birth charts. So that's the
Mm-hmm.
difference between us and other astrology apps, is like you don't just like see random people and then check if they're compatible. For us, we only show you people that are compatible with you based on your chart. And then you can choose one to message each day. You can see their birth chart. You can also use our celebrity match feature, which is just like a fun little side feature.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea behind like the 4 matches per day was, I had a bunch of conversations with friends, and I've had personal experiences, like I said, where it's like we're all so used to lying in bed at the end of the night in like the dark and just like going like
It's
this.
true.
Yeah. And it's just like you're not, at a certain point, you're not actually like absorbing anything. Right. So,
Right. I'm guilty.
yeah, I mean, the apps are designed to do that, right? Like it's in the app's best interest, like it's in Tinder's best interest to get you to like never leave the app. So they make like swiping really addictive, but it's not like that action is not helpful for like actually getting you to talk to people or getting you to like go on a date with someone.
Right.
Um, and it makes us rely more on like, are they hot or are they not hot? And I know for me in my life, like I've found that like there's people that I wasn't attracted to right away who like I got to know better and realized like, oh, like I do find them like more attractive. And when you are on something like Tinder, you like don't get that opportunity to like see if that person has something else there. Um,
Right.
so we really wanted to like go the complete opposite direction of that and just be like, if like you can just dedicate 5 to 10 minutes of your energy per day on this app and that's it, and then move on with your day, like we're happy. We don't want you to spend your whole life just like swiping
Right.
on our app. So it's definitely a different experience, and we've heard people absolutely love it, and we've heard people be like, I don't get it. And I think it's definitely something people have to get used to, just because swiping is everywhere.
No,
um
I definitely feel that because I downloaded the app. I was like, let me see what this is. Because I was telling her offline, I got like a targeted sponsored post. So I was a target for them for the app. So I was like, oh, okay, let me try this app. I haven't tried it. But I think what I really liked was the layout. It's like super simple. Anyone I feel can like understand the layout of the app. I thought it was also interesting too, like if you do download it, there's four matches like she said, but they're like face down.
Yeah, so
So
you
like you
you
literally have to like engage with it,
yep.
and I'm so used to just being like, okay, whatever, like
Yep. Yeah. And the thing is like it's not for everyone, right? Like some people are just trying to swipe and some people just want to see like who thinks I'm hot tonight and that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. That's like its own thing, but I think the problem is when people feel like they don't have another option and they like are craving something more like authentic or deeper and they don't have somewhere to go for that. So we wanted to provide like that experience. And most people use more than one dating app at like any given time. There's not really people don't just go on Tinder. So I'm sure
oh,
that
I know.
most yeah, so most of our users are probably like using our app and Tinder at the same time, which is totally fine. Um, and then the other thing that's like really different is our app just like looks really different, which I'm sure you picked up on right away.
Yeah, it kind of it has like a retro
Yeah,
kind of look. I would
yeah,
describe it as retro.
it's retro. It's like a little vapor wavy, and we wanted it to feel really like unique first of all, and I think it does feel really different than all the other dating apps, so you know like you're using our app and not I have this gripe with like Tinder, Bumble, and Hinge, which is like they're all different of course, but they all kind of look the same because they're just like
Mhm.
a white app with like one accent color and you're just swiping, right? So it's like Bumble's yellow, Tinder's pink, and Hinge is purple, and that's like those are the only differences, right? So we
Mhm.
wanted it to be like feel really different, and we wanted the colors to be really like calming and not like loud, and we just wanted the whole experience to feel different. And the other thing is that I know Bumble, of course, is run by a woman, but aside
Yeah.
from Bumble, the other apps are all run by men. And the other apps are really kind of designed for men and by men. And our app was like designed by women. And astrology in itself is like a very, it's really appealing to like women and people in the LGBTQ plus community and minorities and people who feel like not part of like the mainstream in some way. And
Mhm.
we wanted the app to reflect that and make those people feel comfortable. So what you'll notice is like our app, some people say it like feels kind of feminine and they like question that. But for us, it's like one, it's 2020 and like what even does that mean? And
Right.
two, like, yeah, and two, it's like, okay, so what if we make a dating app that feels more comfortable for women? Like, is that a bad thing? I don't think
It's
so.
not.
Yeah. Yeah. And it filters out guys who like have an ego or like have this like toxic masculinity thing going on. So um that was like a big part of when we were designing the app was making sure that it felt like different and comfortable.
Yes, and I know, like you said, it's still pretty early on in the app's growth.
Life. Yeah.
Right, life expectancy, lifespan. It's pretty there. It's a baby.
Yes, it's a baby.
Yeah, so I know I've been on it, and I've, for other people that might use it, I definitely feel them, like I'm so used to swiping, I'm so used to like instant gratification. But I do think this is really cool because, like you said, you all kind of do the work for us in terms of the natal charts. But I know I also saw on the website that you have a consultant. So can you tell us a little bit about the consultant?
Are you talking about our advisor, Nadine?
Yes, I didn't know
Yeah.
what the word was.
No. That's fine. I just want to
Consultant
make
advisor.
sure. Yeah. So Nadine Jane is our advisor. So a lot of people are familiar with her. She's pretty well known. She's like kind of like a celebrity astrologer.
Mhm.
Um, we connected with her early on when we were developing the app because I'm really interested in astrology and I've obviously done like a ton of research on my own, but I would never claim that I'm an astrologer because I know there's people that have just like put so much of their own time and energy into learning everything about astrology and I'm not at that level at all. So we obviously wanted to make sure that everything we were putting into the app was accurate
Mhm.
and that we had like a real person that was kind of vetting it who had experience and has met with clients. And so we brought Nadine onto the team. So she doesn't work with us like every day, which is why she's an advisor, but she had a big role in helping us with the algorithm and writing a lot of our copy and making sure that everything was just like accurate from an astrology perspective. She's also
Mhm.
amazing because she was actually employee number 20, I think, at Glossier.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, and so she actually was a designer, and I mean still is a designer. If anyone's familiar with her Instagram, part of like her appeal is her posts are just gorgeous. She's like really great at typography and colors, and so
Hmm.
she helped us like get our Instagram layout up and running because I'm like so bad at that. And
Oh,
um
me too, girl. You don't even want to see my Instagram.
I mean, yeah, my personal Instagram is like very not good. But yeah, so she helped us with all of that. And yeah, any like astrology questions we have, she's super, super helpful and knowledgeable about all of that.
For the listeners, if they wanted to follow her, where can they, or what is her Instagram handle?
It's Nadine Jane, so NADINE JANE underscore astrology. Nadine Jane
And
yeah.
and for Struck, are you only on Instagram or do you have another platform?
We're on Twitter. We have like a small Twitter presence. We're just kind of starting out there. I think our Instagram is struck.app. Our Twitter is struck app with no dot.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. And then we're on TikTok because that's where all the like cool young people are. Um, so that is struck app with no dot, I believe.
Okay, so
Yeah.
there's only one dot in one of the handles.
The only dot is in the Instagram handle because I think without the dot was taken. So don't go
Okay.
to, you'll know. You'll know which one's ours. Yeah.
So, I guess some of the common misconceptions people might have would be like, okay, if I'm on the app, like how, because there's so many other apps that are doing like where you can put like socially distant. How do you take into consideration everything that's going on with the pandemic? And then how can people safely have meetups?
Yeah, I mean, it's such a I'm no expert. I have a lot of doctors in my family, so I'll give myself that little boost, but it, like things are changing every day and it's just like I think it's up to everyone to follow whatever restrictions are in their area and just be really smart about it. We don't have any features currently that like are specific to COVID, but it's something we've considered.
Mm-hmm.
I think like at the end of the day, it's kind of maybe not funny, but it's kind of funny because it's like it's just another consent conversation, right? It's just like sex.
Right.
Because
Mm-hmm.
it's your health and it's like in a lot of ways COVID is kind of like an STI, right? It's like some people are like more okay with the risk and on a personal level, I don't know if I agree with that because they can like spread it to other people, but you have to make your own decisions as an adult for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're more comfortable with risk, you just have to communicate that to the people who might not be as comfortable with that risk, right? So it's all about consent and making sure that the other person is comfortable with you, um, like asking them out on a date in person, but like staying 6 feet away, or like maybe if it's date number 2 or 3, asking them if it's okay if like you guys start to consider like whose bubble you want to enter or whatever the case
Right.
is. And some people are like, you know, more sort of frivolous about it. And I like, again, I wouldn't personally do that, but you have to make your own decision. So
No, that's very true. And I feel even now like because I know I'm dating. I've been having this like consistent partner that we actually met through a dating app. So it's kind of crazy that even through this pandemic, people are still wanting to find connection, friendship, love, relationships. As people, I feel like we all want to connect. And, every app has like their niche target audience. And I hate using that term, but like, Struck app is for people that are into astrology or have some sort of interest in it. So also I wanted to ask, do you personally use the app or for research?
I am on the app, but I have a boyfriend, so
Oh, okay.
I'm not dating on the app, but I'm using it to make friends. As someone who used all the other apps and went on like so many dates. I've I've always taken the view that uh, like it's more worth it to just go on the date and meet the person, and I've ended up making like a ton of friends that way over
Mhm.
the past like I don't know, it's like 7 8 years now, and some of my closest best friends have come from dating apps, which is like so funny to think about now. Um yeah, I don't know. And so, some of the people that have been helping out with the app along the way have been people that I met on dating apps, and we like don't even really think of that anymore as like how we met, but
Mhm.
it is how we met. So I think like when I talk to my friends, a lot of people are really less gung ho about like going on dates with people.
Mhm.
And I think it's because people put like this pressure on themselves and on the date to like make sure it ends up being something. And for me, it was never that serious. It was like, yeah, like maybe I do want like a relationship, but this date is just a way to get to know someone, right? Like you can't know someone until you meet them. So, um, what was my point in saying all this? My point was just, oh, so now I'm just using the apps kind of how I was using it before, where it's like, I know it's not going to go anywhere this time, but I've been meeting really cool people on the app. And I, like you were saying, I do use it for research too, just to see like what people like, what people don't like, what we could do better. Cause like you said, we're a baby app.
Right. Yeah, and I hope it like, continues to grow. So, with any growth in any app, if, you had the perfect app, where do you see Struck app evolving?
Wow, that's a big question. Um, yeah, I mean, for our first goal would be to be national because right now we're only in LA, New York, and SF. And
Okay.
that's like again purely like a resourcing issue because we don't have any venture capital backing yet. So that's like a big
Okay.
thing that obviously would help us grow faster.
Hey, but
Um,
you're doing this without the venture capitalists right now, so
yeah,
that's
right now
plus
that's true.
you.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely a grind, but so yeah, we definitely want to go national and then eventually international. I think something we've like even been surprised about was how well this would be received in other countries. So like we have a ton of people
Mm.
in like Sydney and like a ton of people in like Rio in Brazil and like a ton of people in Barcelona. We went viral in Brazil and we went viral in Spain like briefly. So like there's
Wow.
yeah,
I'm
there's
like,
just
once COVID's over, let me go over there.
yeah, there's just people like that are just so enthusiastic about this and it's sometimes easy to forget how ingrained astrology is in other cultures.
Mhm.
It feels newer kind of to American culture, at least in the way that we're currently using it. But it's been a part of other cultures for thousands and thousands of years. So it's like important to keep that in mind that this is like a really important part of people's lives, right? It's not just like pop like astrology, even though that's fun too. Like I enjoy pop astrology. There's also
Yes.
like a much more sort of deep and historical context to it too, and cultural.
No, it's so true. And I know like when I was doing my research, I found a word that I had never heard before. Hopefully I'm saying it correctly. Synastry?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay,
Yes.
I was gonna say synergy, but synastry.
No,
I
that's
was like,
perfect.
wow, like I never knew that in I guess the Indian culture. That's where it comes from.
I don't know about the like specific word synastry, but so synastry is just like the sort of compatibility of two people's charts based on
Mhm.
astrology. And I think the reason you brought up Indian astrology or Vedic astrology is because it's still used there pretty widely. So, for those who watch the Netflix show Indian Matchmaking,
I've seen it.
yeah,
It's so
or
good.
yeah, or just in general, like astrology is a really big part of like I wouldn't say it's all Indian people, but it's still very prevalent in India to like check people's birth charts against each other before they get married, or if they're still doing arranged marriage. It's a really big part of that. Um, so that's still going on, and it's still like an important part of that culture. But synastry in general has been used for like also hundreds or thousands of years. It's actually really hard to find the history of it in Western astrology. I've like
Hmm.
done a lot of research, but I haven't been able to find like a definitive answer. Um, but it seems like, astrology is so funny because yes, it can tell you all this stuff about your life in general, but when we talked to like Nadine and other astrologers, they said that 95% of their like client meetings are just about relationships and in particular romantic relationships. So there's just this like innate human desire to like try to understand things that are really messy and complicated, and like what's messier or more complicated than human attraction and romance, which is like the most messy.
Trust me, I'm trying to figure out if me and my Taurus, he's not my boo, but he should be my boo, are still going to be a thing.
How long has it been?
A couple months, actually. So that's the scary part because we're going into like, this is the last month of 2021.
It's
So
cuffing
it's like,
season.
yeah, I'm like, is it just a cuff or like, does he want to be my babe? We will have to see. But this kind of concludes the end of the show. I'm so happy that we had Rachel Lowe with us. Don't forget to download Struck app. It is available only for iPhone right now, but hopefully soon in the coming year for Android. You can also follow them on social media. They're on Instagram and Twitter, or you could check their website as well. But thank you so much for coming. And also, I love the app. I'm gonna keep trying and be more patient with my matches and more selective because I think that's the key to it, right? Like if you want genuine connections, you need to have a little bit of patience.
Yeah, just remember like you're putting a little more time into each match with Struck, but overall you're spending less time on the app, you know, just swiping around. So, but yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun talking with you.